Okay, so we welcome everyone to today's session. It's the first class of this program. And just like we do, like always, we'll take a few minutes to introduce ourselves. We would like to get to know us. Tell us your name and where you're joining us from. You can either unmute your mic or you speak or you chat in the chat box. So please, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Feel free to unmute your mic. Feel free to chat in the chat box. Tell us your name and where you're joining us from. Let's do that real quick, please. I can see we are over 12 on the call. So tell us your name, tell us where you're joining us from. Okay, Ahmad, please go ahead. Ahmad, yeah, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and I wish you all the best. My name is Ahmad Abdurrahman from Katsina State, Nigeria.
From Castina State, welcome to today's
Nigeria.
class.
Yes,
Welcome to
thank
the
you.
class. In the chat box, we have Thaddeus Ruabam from Plateau State. We have Ahmed. Ahmed, where are you joining us from? We have Mr. Stephen Tayo, a regular, joining us from Lagos. Welcome to today's class, Mr. Stephen. We have Kayode joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome. We have Ahmed from Kogi State. Welcome. We have John joining from Ilaru, Ogun State. Welcome to the class. We have Marvelous joining us from Taraba State, currently doing your master's in computer science. Welcome to today's class, Marvelous. I'm still expecting to see our Kenya, our Ghana, and other parts of the world. So please go ahead to speak. Who's speaking? Please, you can unmute your mic and speak. We still have a lot of us that are yet to introduce ourselves. Let us know your name and where you're joining us from. Okay, I'm still waiting for us before we go ahead into this class. It's the first session, so we should get to introduce ourselves. Okay, we have Michael Adebayo from Lagos, a regular. Welcome again, Michael. We have Oluwatobi Oladunjoye from Ogun State. Welcome. We have Ferdinand Enakale from Edo State. Welcome to this class. Welcome, everybody. So before we go ahead again, uh, I'd like us to go to the WhatsApp group. The group is open for everyone to chat. Let everyone know that this session has started. Tell them to join the class right now. So go to the group, go to your WhatsApp, type on the group, tell everybody that are here to join the class to log on right now. We have Oluwasegun Michael from Ekiti State. Welcome. We have Olalekan from Lagos. Welcome, welcome. I'm still waiting to see our Ghana and Kenya students. So please, everyone go to the group, go to the group. Let everyone know, let them know that the class is ongoing. We have started the session, we have resumed the session. I'd like to see our chats on WhatsApp. Please go to the WhatsApp group, let everybody know. Let them know, let them join the class. All right, I'm seeing some of us. We are still here to do that. Let's invite them. Let's let them know the session has resumed. The class has resumed. Okay, let's do that massively. Let's do that massively. We have the trainer with us already, and we have some important announcements to pass across before we go into today's business. So please go to the group, go to the group, go to the group. Let everyone know that the session is in progress. All right. Okay. So I hope they all see the message and they join us. While we continue, we welcome you to today's class as the first class for this program, the Diploma in Information Systems program. This is some of our this is all our upcoming programs. We have the EBM, which is currently going on, the entrepreneurship and business management. We have this program, the diploma in information systems. We have the AI information system. We have the AI business analyst, and we have the AI automation specialist, which is our Friday programs. So if you have family, friends, colleagues, send this link to them, let them register. Titi, please can you drop this link in the chat box so that they can register for this program. We'll be having our attendance form. We have some of our students. This is not new to them, but if you're joining us newly, please always ensure to fill the attendance form in every class, as this will be part of your assessment. So without taking too much time, this is what we have for today. This is our business for today. We are considering cloud computing and managing the cloud infrastructure. And our trainer, we have Femi Olujari. I'll be introducing Femi to us real quickly. Um, so Femi is an IT security and governance, risk, and compliance consultant with over 8 years of hands-on experience leading IT operations, implementing secure technology solutions, and maturing enterprise governance and risk programs. He currently serves as head of technical at Paranomic Synergy Enterprise Ghana. He has extensive expertise in delivering IT security and GRC related services products. He has had the privilege of implementing solutions on platforms like Azure, AWS, GCP, and also implemented management systems like ISO 27001, 27032, NIST, CSF, PCI DSS 22301, 31,000, 9,001, COBIT, TOGAF for over 15 organizations. He is committed to delivering and empowering organizations with every interaction. Some of his credentials are lead SOC to analyst PECB, anti-money laundering concept, AML, KYC, and compliance, ISO 27001, 2022 Information Security Standards and Best Practices, ISO 27001 Lead Auditor, S&BP Certified Cybersecurity Professional, ISO 27032, 2023, and NIST CSF 2.0, CSI, and CMMC 2.0. ITIL version 4, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, ISO 2000 lead implementer, TUV, IT service management system, IPP, CIPM, certified information privacy manager, Microsoft Azure certified administrator, Microsoft certified Azure solutions architect expert, ISO 29100 privacy protection, ISO 22301 business continuity, Cisco cyber threat management, Sophos certified architect. This is some, not all, I believe, of his credentials. So this is to show us how far Transformation College is going to provide us with quality um, quality in this program. So without further ado, without taking too much more of our time, I'll be leaving the floor for Oluwafemi Olujare. Oluwafemi, are you there?
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes,
Good
good
morning.
morning.
Am I audible? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you are loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to join everybody on this particular session this weekend. I know it must be very, very, demanding for everyone to sacrifice their Saturday to join this session. And I'll just ensure that this session will be valuable to everybody on the call. I'll try my best to ensure that this session is valuable to everybody on the course today. Right, I've seen and I've heard, I've seen your names, I've seen where you're joining from. For some, I see what you currently do. I can see that we have people currently studying on this particular course, which is good. It's good that we have the diverse. It's good that we have diverse attendees, right? It makes what we want to do, more beneficial for everybody, right? So I believe we can start. Or do you still have anything you'd like to add before we proceed? Hello, are we still together? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're loud and clear. Okay,
All
I'll
right,
stop
good.
sharing this now so you
All
can
right,
go.
thank you very much. All right, good morning once again. I hope you're good. We're talking about cloud, right? Cloud computing and managing the cloud infrastructure. This is a very very wide and it's a very wide and deep conversation, to be honest. Can you see my screen? I'm sharing my screen. Can anyone see my screen?
No, your screen is not up yet.
It's not
Please,
up
you
yet.
can share
All
and
right, let
share.
me give me a minute. I also believe my screen is sharing now, right?
Still loading.
Your screen is up now.
All right, it's up now, right?
Yes, it's up now.
All right, perfect, perfect, perfect. Right, like we said earlier, we will be discussing cloud computing and managing the cloud infrastructure. I'll be lying to you if I said that this is we can finish the entirety of cloud of managing the cloud in one or two or three sessions. That would be me lying to you, right? Because the cloud is a very very vast environment, right? So I know we've heard cloud here and there. On the call, who can give me some insights? Well, what do you feel the cloud is? What's your own definition of the cloud? Please, I pretty enjoy classes to be very interactive, so I would truly appreciate it if we could go back and forth on this call. So, what do you think the cloud is? In your own knowledge, we don't have wrong answers, like I rightly said earlier. What do you think the cloud is? Please, I might not see your hand. You might be raising your hand and I might not see it. But if you do that, please kindly just proceed. Okay, I can see someone. Coyote, please kindly
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So,
Good morning. Good morning.
I believe uh, cloud is the ability. Do you mean cloud computing is the ability for us to manage our resources, storage, um, compute from anywhere in the world? Like instead of having a physical, like our physical computer with us where we have our storage and everything, so we can have it remotely somewhere whereby we can compute from anywhere in the world. It allows us to compute from anywhere in the world. I don't know if I get it right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. All right. Thank you very much for that. So who else wants to try? Thank you very much
Good
for that,
morning,
Kylie.
everyone.
Good morning. Good
So
morning.
are we giving definition to the cloud, or cloud computing itself? I want to understand
Cloud,
the,
cloud computing, anyone you want to talk about.
in my own definition, I think cloud, we can call it a remote server or storage
Okay.
that can only be accessed through the internet.
Okay.
Remote storage that can only be accessed through the internet. Because without internet, you can't access the cloud.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. Who else? Who else wants to try? Thank you very much. I didn't see your name when you spoke, but thank you very much. Who else? Who else wants to try? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. That's just 2 out of probably 20 people. So please, let's go. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. In addition to what uh, people have said earlier, the cloud in general is a network of powerful computers, that is server, that is located in a data center around the world, and it store data and run software, and everybody can access it through the internet. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Well, I think there's a misconception there. Three of you primarily said that cloud has to be accessed over the internet. That's not factual, right? There are different categories of cloud, but that's primarily not factual. That's a misconception, actually, right? We have the public cloud, which you can access over the internet, right? That's where you have the likes of your Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, the typical Microsoft Azure that you can, the public, cloud where Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud comes. But we also have the private cloud, right? And for private cloud, you don't primarily require internet connectivity, right? You just require network access. So that's a misconception, right? But the
Sorry,
explanation. Go ahead,
sorry, I
please.
actually want to get that clearly. So, if you're talking about private cloud, are you talking about private storage, or because,
No, there's
like I
private
could have,
cloud.
or private cloud that okay?
Yes,
I think
please.
maybe we'll
Mr.
figure
Ahmad,
that
please
out.
go ahead. I can see a hand raise from Ahmad. Was that for me? All right, please proceed. I can see another hand raised. Please go ahead.
Okay, so do you mean to say that a private cloud is like having like a server in a location whereby other people can connect to the resources remotely? Probably, let's say in an office whereby you have your server and let's
Mm-hmm.
say from the branch office, probably in the same building. Sorry, another office in the same building can access it without
So,
internet, but just being
so,
on the same network.
so there's a thin line within a traditional data center and the private cloud. For it to be cloud, there are five primary components or five primary features, five or six primary features that it should primarily have. I think resource pooling, elasticity, what else? Broad network access. There are about five or six,
Sorry, the
principles
audio
that
is breaking.
Is it
I
me?
don't know
Can
if
you hear
I'm
me?
the only one.
If it's my
The audio is
internet,
breaking.
then today's. Can you hear
We,
me now?
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes, we
Okay,
can hear
thank.
you, but it's breaking.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. You know, I said there's really a thin line between your traditional data center and a private cloud, right? The only primary difference between your normal traditional data center and a private cloud is about five features. I think when we go to the NIST, the NIST framework that talks about cloud computing, I've forgotten the actual naming convention or the number for it. We would see that they've listed, the five core principles that makes it cloud computing, that differentiates it from, private cloud, or when you say data center and the private cloud, it gives us the different features. that differentiates the different characteristics between what the private cloud is and what the traditional data center is. But yes, a private cloud can be established within your typical traditional data center, right? And there are different approaches to actually creating a private cloud. But yes, you could either access your private cloud through a VPN. You could either access it through your internal corporate network, depending on how you've established or created that private cloud environment. Do we understand? Are we together? Are we together?
Yes, we are together.
All right, perfect. So good. The typical cloud computing that or most of us, because I don't want to assume that everybody on this call is probably working for an organization, right? So I won't assume that, right? So I would believe that we're all coming from different aspects of life generally. So people from school or people that are still in school are here. People working are here. People transitioning between jobs are also here. So we'll take it from those various aspects. But yes, there are different types. There are different variants, for cloud. And when we get into the conversation, we will still talk about it in detail. Right? Good. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for that, brilliant conception or for that brilliant response. It means that, we would have a good session by God's grace. Right? All right. Good, good, good. Now let's get right into it. Thank you very, 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 very much. Right? We talked about, what the cloud is. We've also, looked at what the cloud computing is. When we talk about cloud computing, right, typically, right, we talk about managing computing resources, right, managing computing resources from a remote location primarily, right. That's when we limit it typically to public cloud environment, right. For most of you on the call, what you probably will be working with typically, because not every organization can afford to create a private cloud, right? But what we can have conversations typically is I can see charts. I might not be able to look at charts, but I know that I can see charts popping up on my screen. So I might not see if you have messages for me or if you have chats for me, I might typically not see. So it will be better if you probably just show a raise of hands or just raise of hands or just say something so that I can at least ask or okay, let me see. I can see Michael Adebayo. Oh, I can see lots of people responding here too. I'm so sorry, I can't see the chat box. So the cloud storage, which can be accessed, is typically not a storage. It's not limited. It's not limited. That's what I wanted to say, right? So what you're probably most people when you hear the cloud, most people would liken it to um, Apple Cloud Storage, right? So it's not limited to that, right? But storage is an aspect of cloud computing resources, right? And we'll show you also within the cloud environment by God's grace. For the private cloud, don't we need access? Don't we need to access it through the local network? Definitely. But there are different aspects, there are different means in which we can access a private cloud, right? So you're not limited to just your local. There are different aspects. There are different ways depending on how you've configured it, right? When you go to Microsoft Azure, there's even a particular service. I think it's called Azure Stack, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Azure Stack, right? That also helps you manage your private cloud. So there are different aspects, right? It's not limited to just this. But yes, you definitely have to access it through this, but there are different aspects, there are different means that you can access a private cloud, right? So it's not just limited to this primarily. So good. If like I said, I might not be able to see some of these questions, so because I'm closing this chat now, but you can always prompt me, or better still, you can drop all the questions there, and when we do question and answers, I'll definitely go there to respond to everything. I hope that's better. All right, let's get right into it so that at least we finish on time. I believe the class was stated for 2 hours, right? So let's get right into it. Okay, let's proceed. I hope I'm correct about the 2 hours. Moderator, please just let me know. All right, good.
So, okay, sorry. The
Please go ahead.
class, there will be break by 12, which lasts
By
for,
what? What time?
by 12, there will be break by 11:30 to 12.
Okay, okay.
So the rest of the time can be taken for question and answers. And please, can you put your screen on the display mode, please?
Okay, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'll do that now. All right, so okay, so that's typically 1 hour 30 minutes. If,
No, you have 1 hour 30 minutes before the break, then another
it,
session after. You have
okay,
after
another
the
session
break.
after the. Okay, all right, all right, all right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's noted. Let's get right into it. All right, good. Cloud computing and managing the cloud infrastructure. So typically, if you want to become a cloud administrator, a cloud engineer, a cloud security architect, you need to first understand the concept of the cloud, right? You need to also understand how to manage resources. In fact, for everyone looking to diversify with respect to their competence when it comes to, let's say, most people are primarily, or most organizations, or most individuals on this call, probably or typically started with, on-prem environment. And then they introduced, cloud environment, which some organizations have successfully transitioned, right? But, there are still organizations who do we have organizations who haven't leveraged the cloud? In Nigeria, yes, I believe so. All right. So there are organizations who still haven't, leveraged some aspect of the cloud. Right. So it's very, very important for you to have it at the back of your mind that if you're looking at, making a career out of cloud computing, primarily, or cloud. If you want to be like cloud admin, if you want to be cloud security, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to be a cloud architect or a cloud DevOps engineer, right? You still have to first understand how the cloud works, how you administer resources on the cloud, how you manage resources on the cloud, how you secure resources on the cloud. This will primarily be your responsibility as a cloud administrator, right? So that is why we want to discuss cloud and all its various features that I have access to show. So it's very, very important that we also factor, or we also take it into consideration that what we would primarily be, if I were to show any form of demo, right, it will be limited to the public cloud, right? So if I were to do any demo on this particular session, what I would be showing you would be around Microsoft Azure and nothing else, because that's where I have some form of account, or you know license to do one or two things, right? I can definitely not demo a private cloud, because that would be literally impossible, right? Because when you talk about private cloud, everything is managed by the organization, so it's not everything from start to finish is managed by the organization, not a cloud service provider, unlike the public cloud. So I wouldn't even be, even if I had, even if my organization already operates a private cloud, there's still no way I can show you, because that's why it's called private cloud, right? I know it gives my organization full control over everything, over every possible layer, right? But doesn't mean that I can display or show the outside world what should be private to my organization. So for that purpose, what we'll primarily be showing or displaying would be around the public cloud, typically or specifically Microsoft Azure, right? Good. Now let's proceed. Cloud computing and managing the cloud infrastructure, right? Organizations face increasing pressure to deliver software applications securely, rapidly, and continuously to retain customers who depend on updated business capabilities. So, what this is just trying to say is just giving you insights to the reason why the cloud was born, right? Primarily. So there are different benefits of cloud computing, right? There are different benefits of cloud computing: elasticity, high availability, you know, um, easy resource allocation. There are lots of benefits, right? Why different organizations will leverage the cloud, and I'm hoping that we've clearly established some of the advantages within this particular slide, right? The next thing that we have is the evolution of data access before the cloud revolution, and modern business. Physical external storage devices required for data transfer. Employees couldn't work remotely with full access to information. Now, cloud revolution, access information via internet anytime from any device, any location, remote banking, online shopping, collaborative documents. This is so what they were saying is before cloud and when cloud came in. I beg to differ with respect to this cloud revolution, right? Even before the cloud, we had online shopping. Even before the cloud, we have remote banking, right? But even before the concept of the cloud, right? Because it's very, very important that when we hear cloud, right? When we hear, oh, it's on the cloud, what we're just referencing is, it's on a data center somewhere that we can access remotely. It's as simple as that. So it's not something ambiguous. The methodology or the nomenclature, the naming convention of the cloud, the naming convention of the cloud just came about not recently. I think the first AWS was the first, and I think that was created around 2010, if I'm not mistaken, 2007 or 2010, right? That was when AWS cloud. I think that's the oldest version of the cloud as at today, of the public cloud as at today. I think that was about either 2007 or 2010, right? I'm not 100% sure with the specifics of the date, but yes, I believe it was around the 2000, early 2000s, right? Good. Now, let us proceed. So, modern businesses, right, enrich depth and breadth of information system development and efficacy across all industry. So, the honest truth is, the cloud is here to stay. The cloud environment, cloud is not leaving anytime soon, right? And if not for regulations here and there, right? If not for regulations here and there, I want to believe that 100%. No, no, let me say 100%. Let me say about 95% of organizations globally would have transitioned all their resources to the cloud. Right? Regulations aside, there are certain regulations that stop different organizations from operating on the cloud. Right? There are different verticals, there are different industries that they can't leverage the full capacity or capabilities of the cloud environment, right? Because of data residency. 2006, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Steven says March 14, 2006. Thank you very much. Right? Good. So these are certain things that we ensure that we factor into consideration. If not for certain jurisdictions and certain laws, right? 90 to 95% of organization would be fully on the cloud as at today. But in Nigeria, let me use Nigeria as a case study. Let me not use not just Nigeria. Let me use Nigeria and Ghana and other West African countries. There are different laws that restrict you from leveraging the full capabilities of the cloud, right? Be it from CBN, be it from the government, be it from other regulatory bodies, because of data residency. That's primarily one of the issue, right? There's some data that different regulatory bodies or different organizations would prefer being stored within their what jurisdiction, right, within Nigeria or within Ghana. But because most of the public cloud, in fact, because all of the public cloud don't have any regions in Nigeria or Ghana, I think the only African country who has a region is South Africa. All right, the only country in Africa that has a region on the public cloud is South Africa. And most countries are still not really comfortable, even though it's in Africa. Most of them are still not comfortable with their data or their information sitting outside their jurisdiction or their country. And that's one of the pitfalls, right, of the cloud environment. And that's why, in fact, I dare to say that that's one of the issues why organizations haven't fully migrated majority or all their resources to the cloud, right? But every organization, right? Should I say every organization? Wouldn't that be overreaching? Let me say 95% to 98% of organizations. Please, I don't have any surveys for this though, right? But this is me just from my own perspective. 95% of organizations globally leverage an aspect or utilizes an aspect of the cloud. That's also very, very important for us to state, right? They might not have all their resources on the cloud, but they all leverage an aspect of the cloud. These are some of the things that we need to ensure that we factor into consideration. That's why if you see most fintech organizations now, in fact, I dare to say 90 based on this is based on the fintechs that I have been privileged to having conversations with or auditing or implementing for. I would say that I've done close to about 15 fintechs, and I can tell you categorically that most of them, all their resources are, in fact, all the ones that I've interfaced with, all their resources are primarily on the cloud. All their resources, their core banking application, literally everything is on the cloud that I know of, that I have interfaced with, right? So, this is just to bring to the back of your mind that this is not it's not changing anytime soon, right? It's not changing anytime soon, right? And as we move or as we pace with respect to this era of technology, cloud is not declining anytime soon. Although, right? Although we've heard of conversations where some people predict that in the nearest future, right, people will fall back to their typical on-prem infrastructure. I've seen those predictions. I think I've heard about those predictions as well. Do I believe it is possible? Anything is possible in this era, right? Anything is possible. But uh, we've also seen those predictions, right? Only time will tell if the predictions are correct or not. All right, let us proceed. So that's just some brief introduction into the cloud and why organizations will definitely be adopting or has adopted the cloud environment. Now let us proceed. Let us move. We have about 70 something slides. So I would okay, good. I can see chat. Let me see. Okay, I don't think that was for me. All right, let us proceed. Good. All right. Cloud computing. Let me be sure this is it. Okay. Cloud computing applications, application systems, human resource, daily operations. Well, I also want to state that, these are just examples. In fact, in some, I would say that these primarily are just referring to one aspect of the deployment, no, service model. Let me put it that way, right? This, what has been listed here is just, an aspect of a service model, which primarily will fall into a SaaS, software as a service side of things for the cloud environment, right? We have platform as a service, we have infrastructure as we have software as a service, but we'll talk about it. I think there's a portion in the slide that talks about this very, very well, right? I can see chat, but if it's for me, I think they would fall back to hybrid. Most organizations actually currently use hybrid. About 95% of these organizations that I mentioned, no, except, yes, not no, yes, 95% of organizations currently leverage hybrid, right? We'll still talk about, the different deployment models. Everybody, I know you can see hybrid here. Hybrid is just a mixture of public and, private primarily, right? But we'll still talk about that when we get there, right? So that's what Coyote is just talking about. Hybrid cloud is just a mixture of both the public cloud and also the private cloud primarily. So, but when we get there, we'll also talk about it in detail, right? Good. So, but Coyote, majority of organizations currently leverage hybrid. Let me say majority, yes, majority of organizations currently leverage hybrid, right? But let us proceed. So good. These are examples of cloud computing applications, as you can see on my screen: accounting, human resource, daily operations. And I said one thing. I said that it is limited, right? This is only limited to one model, right? It's limited to the software as a service model. But this is also me not saying that it can't be achieved using the infrastructure as a service and also the platform as a service, because you can achieve, it's very, very important for me to state that you can achieve deploying any application on the cloud using the three different models. Primarily can be achieved, right? What do I mean by that? I've seen organizations buy, what's this HR solution that most organizations use? Is it simple HR? I don't think it's simple HR. What's that HR? Who can remind me? Bamboo. Is it Bamboo HR? I think so. Is it Bamboo HR? There's one HR. Who remembers? Who can remind me? I think it's Bamboo Is it Bamboo HR? Let me search. Let me just be sure. Okay, someone has dropped the chat. Let me see. Seamless. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Seamless HR. I don't know where Bamboo HR. I haven't seen Bamboo HR. Let me check. I don't know where Bamboo HR came to my mind. The only Bamboo I know is the stock platform. But let me just be sure. Let me see. I just searched. Let me see if we have something, or if it's just my imagination. Yes, we actually do have Bamboo HR, actually, so I'm correct. I have seen something like that before. So yes, we actually do have Bamboo HR. Thank you, Stephen. There's actually, I noticed, I think I've seen it before, so my mind just said Bamboo HR. So I just had to believe that it existed before, right? So what I was trying, the analysis or the analogy I was trying to use initially was this, right? We can, let me go back there. It moved a little bit. That's why I don't always like using this full screen, because it just moves sometimes. So good. What I'm trying to say is that we should not limit, the cloud to just this, right? Cloud computing applications, right? And what I was trying to say is that we can achieve, having an accounting system using the different service models, based software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, right? So good. like I was saying, for software as a service, we have Seamless HR, we have Bamboo HR, right? It's a software as a service. It means that what we get a license for this particular solution and we just use it, right? The underlying setup and the underlying configuration of this particular application is of no use to us. We don't want to know, right? We don't want to know. We just want to get that particular license and just create our users and just manage the data on that particular platform. The underlying physical infrastructure, be it your network, be it the physical servers, be it the virtual servers, be it the different application components, be it the different dependencies, is of no concern to us at all. We just want to have a platform that we can use. We've paid for it. We just want to use it. We just want to manage our users and just want to manage our data on it. That is it. I want to assign roles, etc., and a little bit of configuration here and there. But the setup and the building of this particular environment is not, it's of no concern to us using software as a service, right? So, but the same way we have this, we can have this from a software as a service perspective, right? We can also have it, right, from a platform as a service perspective. When we talk about platform and infrastructure as a service, right? When you're platform as a service is more development centric, right? This is where we build resources, serverless applications. This is where we build solutions without worrying or stressing ourselves about the underlying infrastructures. We don't worry ourselves about infrastructure as a service, the IaaS. That's the last one. When we talk about infrastructure as a service, we're talking about what? Infrastructure as a service. The underlying infrastructure. Your virtual machine components, your networking components, all of this, infrastructure as a service component, we don't worry about it within platform. When you hear things you hear around platform as a service are what? Serverless. When I say serverless, what are some of the things that we mean? We're talking about containers. We're talking about app service plans. What else? We're talking about functions. Right? These are different aspects when we talk about the platform as a service. This is more development centric. Right? So what I was trying to say to you is that you can achieve these applications across the three different models, service models. Right? And I believe that when we proceed, we will still see all the different service models. And if we don't see that, we'll show you a great image description for the three different models. Google Drive, a cloud success story. Like I would also say to you that it is not limited to cloud, your cloud, your Apple, your cloud, or your Mac systems, your Macintosh OS. No, it's not limited to that, please. Right? It's very, very important that we have that at the back of our mind. It's not limited to this at all. See, let me even say this. Right? Let me even say this. The cloud, the cloud and the configuration, the implementation, the security that we do within the cloud environment is no different than the security that we do on-prem. Right? The only difference is the nomenclature. That's the honest truth. The only difference is the nomenclature, the naming conventions. Right? But all the resources that we primarily will leverage within the cloud, we also leverage on-prem. The only difference are the different benefits that we have leveraging the cloud environment, right? The cost implication and also the risk. When we talk about choosing a particular service, we look at the cost imposed by the service. We also look at the cost removed by the service. We also look at the risk imposed by a particular service. And we also look at the risk removed by that particular service. before we pick any service within our organization, primarily, ideally, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that the cloud, the naming convention of cloud might be sweet to the ear, but right, the configuration, the setup is nothing, is no different. The backend, no, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that you implementing security controls, the same security controls that you implement on-prem will be the security controls that you also implement on the cloud. The approach can be different, right? When it comes to managing resources, it is seamless on the cloud. It is seamless on the cloud because there on the cloud we have orchestration. It is very, very easy to set up, create, and manage resources. It can be pretty easy, and we have different ways to manage resources. We also have different ways to manage resources on-prem, but it's more seamless and more easy. Should I say easy? Let me just say it's more seamless, right? It's more seamless on the cloud. So this is just me trying to make you understand that if you would transition to the cloud, don't expect that it's a stroll in the park. All right, it's not a stroll in the park, but it's also so that is a better word. I was going to say it's also not as, yes, I think I can say that it's also not as tedious as you would manage resources on prem. But like I said, we'll show you some demos hopefully before we call it a day today, right? But so Google Drive, a cloud success story, multi-device access, real-time collaboration. It gives such advantages. Give cloud computing the ability to help organizations work more effectively and efficiently. Google Drive in this particular situation primarily is they're referring to the software as a service side of things, because Google Drive is also embedded within the Google Workspace, which is also a software as a service environment or platform. We have GCP, right? There's Google Cloud Platform, which is the public cloud aspect. There are different aspects where we talk about some of these things, right? It's very, very important that we understand, right? Good. So Google Drive is also an aspect of the cloud, and we see the different benefits of leveraging this aspect of the cloud, right? Multi-device access. I mean, you can connect using multiple devices, right? Like for public cloud, just get internet connectivity, get any device, your phone, your tablet, your phone, your tablet, your your phone, your tablets, your what else? Your laptops, thank you. Your laptops, literally anything, any endpoint device. Primarily, with any endpoint device, you can have access into your public cloud environment and even your private cloud environment, right? Based on the setup that we have within the organizations, within various organizations, right? Good. So these are some of the things that we factor and we take into consideration, right? I just don't want you limiting your mind to that cloud typically just talks about Google. I know from the responses I got initially, I know most of us or some of us on this call already have an idea with respect to the cloud environment, but for some of us who would just liken cloud to the cloud on your Apple, or the storage. No, it's not primarily storage. Storage is an aspect, it's just an aspect of the cloud, right? There, if I were to show you my Microsoft Azure portal now, you will see that on Microsoft Azure, if you were to do a proper count, we have over 100 plus services, right? We have over 100 plus services on Azure cloud as of today. There's nothing you want to do. There's nothing you can't do on the cloud. Anything you can do on-prem, you can do on the cloud. That's the beauty of it, right? Anything you can do on-prem, you can do on the cloud. That's the reality of things now. So please and please and please don't limit cloud computing to just storage. It goes beyond that. right? We have virtual machine on the cloud. We have virtual machine skill sets on the cloud. We have database. We have managed instances on the cloud. We have app service plan. We have container services on the cloud. We have AKS, Agile Kubernetes services. That's what we use in orchestrating or managing our container instances on the cloud. We have Azure Vision, we have Azure Fabric, we have, you can build AI solutions, you can implement your LLM models within the cloud. There are lots of things, machine learning, managing big data, what else? You name it. Anything you can name, anything you can think of, we have it. You can do it on the cloud, right? Anything that you can do on-prem, you can also do on the cloud. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? Very, very important that we factor that into consideration, right? Virtual networks, creating your different virtual networks, you know, creating different subnets, your security solutions too. Azure Firewall exists, network security groups, WAF exists. There are lots of things. Defender, your endpoint solutions, we can also have it on that particular cloud environment. So anything you can think of, right? Anything you can think of doing on-prem, you can also do it on the cloud. Very, very important that we state that. And the beautiful thing about the cloud is this: everything has been encompassed into one environment, right? And it takes away that need of that supply chain need. Everything you want to do is on a particular platform, right? And it also takes away the need for capital expenditure, right? The need for organizations to always, oh, we need to set up our own data. We need to set up a server room. Oh, we need to even work. What are some of the things that we need? Oh, we need a location first. We need to buy physical servers that we'll use in, creating different virtual machines that we want to operate or work with, right? What else? We need electricity. What about web development? Oh, yes, that's what I mentioned. Containers. Containerization is I don't want to say is the new, but let me say is the more used approach to web development because of what it does, packaging all the application and its dependencies in a YAML file, whereby you can, deploy it on any organization, on any platform. So all the things I mentioned initially, containers, app service plan, these are ways in which you can deploy, solutions on the cloud. And if time permits, like I said, I can even demo one or two, if time permits us, right? I can demo one or two or even three today, right? If time permits us. Good. So definitely yes, web development you can do on most people even build their websites on the cloud. If you're a web developer, Ahmad, that's from your question. I want to believe that you probably are a web developer. I'm not sure, but if you're a web developer, you would have done, or no, let me say you would have done, you probably have seen people reach out to you that they want to build different applications. What would you do for them primarily now, right? Most organizations or most small businesses will not go and start saying, oh, let's go and configure a server room or a server whereby you can help us. The cloud is there. Most people just deploy their websites or applications, web applications. All of these things are done on the cloud now primarily. I'm not saying majorly, right? But this age and time, it's just very, very easy and more straightforward for you to just spin up a cloud resource and just deploy your solution cost effectively. Please, when I say cost effectively, we'll also get to that part of the cloud, right? I know they say the cloud is cheaper. That can be a lie, right? That can definitely be a lie. The cloud, we hear it a lot, but please, doesn't mean the cloud is cheaper. If you don't configure the cloud environment very, very well, there's every tendency that you would run into a debt. Yes, the organization will end up being bankrupt. I've seen situations like that, and hopefully, when we talk about it, when we get there, we'll also really, really discuss. We'll discuss all of these things when we get there. So yes, to answer your question, can we also say that a cloud is is also a server. Mm. Mm. So a cloud primarily, we say cloud, but cloud is not just thin air. When you say Microsoft, when you deploy your virtual machine on a region on Azure or AWS, what is happening at the back end is that most of your resources are being deployed within Microsoft or AWS's data center, right? And yes, data centers primarily are made up of what? Racks and servers. There are also virtualization environments within their various, data centers that can accommodate all your requests and all the resources that you're trying to spin up, right? So I won't say saying the cloud is also a server is me limiting. I won't say that. Just have it at the back of your mind that a cloud is just what? You spinning up resources in a data center, either through the internet primarily. Most people would liken cloud, to the internet as a metaphor, right? Well, primarily, this is just us ensuring that cloud is just a means of, spinning up resources, right? Either through the internet, at what? At your cloud service provider's data center, primarily, right? That's what you do. We don't see the cloud because we don't see it primarily here, but we can see it, but we don't see it. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. So if I were to go to Microsoft Azure now and I spin up a virtual machine now, right? I tell them what I'm trying to do. I create this, I create that. I will still show you a sample and an example of that, right? So we'll create a virtual machine. We do this, we do that. Where do I want to put it? The region that I now select will be what? My resource will be spinned up in that particular, or in a data center in that particular region. In Microsoft data center, right, or in AWS data center, or in Google's data center, depending on the cloud platform that you're currently using. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That's let me see, JR. Junior. Is it Junior? Yes, Junior. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So when we say, okay, we want to create or we want to deploy a virtual machine on Azure now, when we select a region, good, thank you very much. Right? When we select a region, what now happens at the back end is that what? There are data centers within that particular region, depending on what the cloud service provider, the CSP that we are currently using. Right? So when you declare or when you state that particular region, your resources will be created in a particular data center in that region. All right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Good. All right, perfect. Junior, let's proceed. Right? Let me close this. I hope we're still together. All right? If we're still together, let me see on the chat, please. If we're still together, I hope I'm not confused anybody. I hope I'm not confused anybody. I hope we're still together. I hope we're still together. 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 Oh, Mr. Steven. Good, good, good. Access primarily, there are other means. I mentioned public cloud, I mentioned private cloud. So in fact, let me do this. Let me show you a picture. Give me a minute. So that at least we get a clear understanding of, when I mean different, yes, Mr. Stephen. Yes, I mentioned private cloud too. Right? And I said, the private cloud could what? Primarily hosted in what? your own data center, right? And if I were to throw this question at you, for everyone within enterprise organizations here, how do you access resources from a remote location? How do you access resources from a remote location into your internal network? Thank you very much. In some situations, we use what? VPNs. In some situations, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right? In some situations, we use VPNs. In some situations, depending on RDPs, yes, we can RDP into different environments. In fact, we can use Bastion. We can even use on Azure. There's something that we can even do if we don't want to access critical resources through the internet. Right? We can use specific private endpoint solutions like Azure Bastion. Do you get to access our resources like our virtual machine? So there are different means, or there are different ways that we can do that. In fact, in some organizations, I don't want to for hybrid now, right? For organizations who use an hybrid, they won't, what they primarily use to access the environment will probably be what? Express route. There are different ways, there are different means. But the reason why I said that, Mr. Steven, is based on the different platforms, based on the different types of cloud. So I said I wanted to show you something. So let me show you the shared responsibility matrix. Let me use Azure. Right? Give me a minute. I'm trying to show you something. Right? So what's okay, let me see. I want to show you that picture. There's a picture I'm looking for. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up. Give me a minute. Okay, let me do this. Let me. Where is my? All right. Can you see this? Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. Thank you very much. Right. So this is something called the shared responsibility matrix. Right. This is what we call a shared responsibility matrix, depending on certain things that we currently depend on different cloud service models. Right. Their deployment models, their cloud service models. Right. Good. So based on the various models that we've set up within the organization, you can see what your cloud service provider is responsible for, and you can also see what you primarily are responsible for. right? Good. For example, the software as a service, all of these things, as you can see, the software as a service, you can see what the customer is deep blue, and the cloud service provider, be it Microsoft, be it AWS, be it GCP, is light blue, and you can see shared, right? You can see for software as a service for the likes of Microsoft 365, GCP, no, Google Workspace, and various, there are different software as a service platforms that we manage now. You can see the only thing that you probably manage as an organization is the information and the data, the devices, the accounts, and probably what shared responsibility when it comes to identity. Explain more about its functions. Is that for me? Okay, sorry. Okay, that's not for me. I think someone was saying research more about the class. I thought that was for me. Right? Good. All right, let's proceed. So based on the different cloud deployment models that we have, would determine what we are responsible for managing. All right? You can see the software as a service. You can see the platform as a service. Initially, I said is development centric, and we can see the infrastructure as a service. And you can see our on-prem, right? You can see our on-prem typically. So we can see our on-prem, right? Typically within our on-prem environment, you can see that everything is managed by the enterprise or by the organization. Do you get what I'm saying? So, and primarily, we said private cloud primarily can, right? Primarily can, or majority of the times, will be developed and built within an organization's data center because it's private to your organization. Do you get? When I mean it's private, it's specific to your organization. So there's no shared tenancy within a private cloud. A private cloud, when it comes to the private cloud, the organization is both judge, jury, and executioner. Right? The cloud service provider doesn't have visibility into everything within their private cloud. It is specific. They don't share particular resources with anybody, unlike the public cloud. Do you get? So when we say private cloud, we mean the private cloud is specific to that particular organization, right? The only difference, we're saying earlier, let me see this. I think I will look for that particular, the various, what differentiates between on-prem and private data center and what the private cloud. It has to have 5 core principles. When we get there, we'll definitely see it. I think it's within this slide itself. But when we get there, we'll see it. So do you get what I'm trying to say? So cloud computing is typically about how your resources are delivered and managed. Right? So it just depends on, based on the deployment model that you have within the organization, will determine how you access the resources in that environment. Right? There's a reason why in enterprise organizations, you are not allowed to access certain resources over the internet. You are only allowed to access it through what? The internal network via your VPN, primarily most enterprise organizations. Before you can even RDP into certain resources within enterprise organizations, right? There are specific configuration or permissions that would have been given to different devices and different IP ranges within the organization, right? So these are just the different, approaches or the different ways that, we factor some of these things into consideration, right? These are just some of the things that, we're trying to discuss primarily, right? Good. Mr. Stephen, I hope you understand what I'm saying now. Let me see. That was for Mr. Are we still together? All right, good. Now let's proceed. Mr. Stephen, are we still together? All right, let's proceed. So good. Business challenges, right? We have about 73 slides on those classes, so I need to take it up a notch. So what we'll do is this. Everybody, for every question you probably have, type it out. When we have questions and answers, we'll just address everything as we proceed. Right? Good. So the business challenge, right? Consider a situation where organization needs to rapidly expand a new product line to increase competitive advantages. What's the timeline for traditional infrastructure? This is also very, very true, right? But doesn't really also portray the entire truth, right? Because I've seen an organization, I've seen a mature organization with clear, operating processes that, where if they need to spin up an environment to deploy, or to develop certain applications, it can be done within 10 minutes, within 5 to 10 minutes, right? So it's also not factual, right? I won't say factual, but yes, I've seen mature organizations who are working on-prem that, have some of these things sorted, right? So these are some of the things that we also, factor into consideration. But yes, in modern terms, in modern in our current environment or in our current ecosystem, these are some of the things that we want to ensure that we factor into consideration. How can we speed up time to market? How can we ensure that we set up or we create a virtual machine at the click of a button? How can we ensure that we deploy an application within less than 15 minutes? Right? Because on Azure, we can, in fact, less than 10 minutes if my internet is very, very good. Right? If my internet is pretty good, right? Because, I'm primarily working with the public cloud, I can create an application that will go live now in less than 5 minutes. Right? These are some of the things that, we factor into consideration. All right. And that's why most organizations, thought about, leveraging and utilizing the cloud. One of the major reasons why most organizations or most people leverage the cloud is primarily around the capital and operational expenditure, primarily. Right? Why do I need to buy or get some things before I am operational, before my business is operational? Why do I need to get, make certain capital expenditure payments before my business is operational? Why can't I just, pay as I go? And that's why most organizations and that's why most enterprises are leveraging the cloud now, right? And these are some of the things that we factor into consideration, right? Good. Let us proceed. Traditional infrastructure, as you can see, I mentioned it earlier. Purchase order, minimum to 30 days to process the purchasing order through organizational requirements if funding is available. Equipment delivery dates, configuration and implementation, right? Just like what we said. With respect to the cloud, all of these things is very, very seamless. All of these things are seamless. All of these things are seamless, right? These are some of the things that, we want to ensure that we factor into consideration. With respect to the Azure cloud, we've removed every need, that supply chain risk, that supply chain activity. We've removed everything. You want to set up a resource, just go there. Check it, check the pricing, check how much it costs, check this, check that, and you're good to go. I can easily create one. What you'll be using 30 days or more to finalize, you can do it within 1 day. Or give or take within, no, yes. If we include planning and all of those things, planning what you intend to do, and but let's say you already know what you want to do, you've reached a conclusion in respect to the infrastructure that you need, or with respect to some of the operating resource that you need, getting this up, it can be done within everything can be set up within 1 to 2 hours. Everything you're trying to do. That will typically take you what? 2 months. And that's the reality of things. That's where we are currently. Right? That's where we are. That's where we currently are as an organization. Right? And these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Cloud computing definitions, right? The cloud, primarily IT resources are available, through the internet, on demand or pay-as-you-go basis without user management requirements. Public cloud, right? IT resources are available through the internet, on demand or as pay-as-you-go. On demand meaning what? We need it, we get it. It's as simple as that. If we need this, we don't need to go through a certain supply chain to get that available. We can easily spin up resources on the go. Right? Pay as you go. You only pay for what you use, right? Public cloud. You only pay for what you use, right? Public cloud. Very, very important that we factor that into consideration. If you're using Microsoft Azure, if you're using AWS, if you're using GCP, right? If you spin up a virtual machine, you only pay for what? The number of hours that the virtual machine was running for. These are the things that we factor into consideration. Cloud provider, Microsoft, AWS, GCP, Alibaba, DigitalOcean. Right? These are cloud service providers. These are companies providing on-demand services like what? Data storage, applications and infrastructure via their internet platform. Right? These are certain things that we factor into consideration. Cloud consumer, entity that uses and maintains access to computing resources from a cloud provider. Organization, myself, I'm a cloud consumer. Your organization, if they're already leveraging the cloud, in fact, some of you on the call are already cloud consumers. So these are just, some definitions, that we have. Cloud implementation process, select a provider, portal access, deploy and test. It goes beyond this, right? It goes way beyond this sometimes. Well, let's say this is the high level, right? Select the provider you want to work with. In fact, let me do this. Let me see where they spoke about the different. Let me see where they spoke about the different. Yes. Right? So these are something called cloud deployment models. Right? This is the public cloud, this is private cloud, this is hybrid cloud, and this is what? Community cloud. Right? Good. Public cloud is one that we're all used to. Right? Services offered over what? The public internet and shared across multiple organizations and users. That's what everyone is referring to. That's what we're talking about. The public cloud, AWS, Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean, right? We all have accounts, we all have tenants, we all have subscriptions here, right? It's accessible over the internet. And what? Different organizations. We have multi-tenancy, we have shared tenancy, right? It means we have a pool of resources that are utilized for multiple clients, right? It means that everyone here can have what? We have an account on Azure. In fact, if I create a virtual machine and anybody here create a virtual machine, right? It could be that what? Both our resources have been created in what? The same environment within their data center. Right? And that's what primarily, most organizations currently even leverage. Right? But we also have what? Private cloud, dedicated cloud infrastructure, exclusive use, operated solely for one organization and one organization only. This is specific to what? A single organization. And will most likely be created within their location, primarily. Could be. It could also be created in a different location, depending on what they want to do as an organization. But it is specific to what? That particular organization. There are companies in Nigeria that give you what? Private cloud what? Capabilities. I think Equinix does it now. I think Rack Center. No, there's one organization that we did that I did the training for. It's Cloud. I've forgotten the name. Nigeria. Right, and these are some of the things that we also factor into consideration. And you can see here that the definition doesn't include what? Services offered over the public internet. Because this is specific to what? A specific organization. Hybrid cloud. You want to have a mixture of both, the public and what? The private cloud. Let's say there are some applications that, there are some applications that are not sensitive, are not critical. There are some applications that, some of the risk of utilizing a public cloud is acceptable for, right? You utilize what? The public cloud for it. And there are some more rigid, resources. In fact, that's just one particular use case. There's another use case whereby some people will say, oh, we use it for legacy applications. For legacy applications or for legacy systems that we can't rehost on the cloud without dependencies issue. Let's just leave it within our environment. Let's not move it. Let's leave it as is. But for new development as we proceed, we want you guys to leverage what? The public cloud for some of these resources going forward. This is just a combination of both public and private. Right? And community cloud. I believe you've heard of the Galaxy. If you've heard of Galaxy Backbone, I want to believe you've heard of the Galaxy Backbone. A Galaxy Backbone that we have, I think, in Abuja, where different government organizations have come together to create their own community cloud that helps them manage what? Their resources. Because of data residency issue. Right? It's called Galaxy Backbone. It's a community cloud. Right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. So these are cloud deployment models. Right? So these are cloud deployment models. So let me go back so that we proceed. Good. Right? So we have cloud implementation process, select your provider, portal access, deploy, and test. Like I said, this is just a high level. It goes way beyond all of these things. Select your provider, be it AWS, Azure, but there are different things that we'll still talk about if we're to select. So it's not select a provider first, it's define your strategy. So there are things called cloud adoption frameworks. There are things called well-architected framework. Right? These are some of the things that you need to first factor into consideration before you even select a provider. There's, you can look at it. Cloud adoption, CAF, cloud adoption framework. You guys can search it. Cloud adoption framework and WAF, well-architected frameworks. So you define your strategy first before we select the provider. Select the provider, portal access. There are different ways to even access a cloud environment. It's not, you don't need to go through a web browser most times. Right? You can use what? Command line. You can use bash. You can use CLI. You can use PowerShell to deploy resources, to access resources within your cloud environment. You can even use mobile applications. There's an Azure mobile app that you can use in doing everything you want to do. Right? So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Deploy and test, Deploy and test it. Like I said, it goes beyond just these three, right? If we're to break it down, go to everyone, check out the cloud adoption framework, CAF. You will see seven strategies that you need to follow before migrating or utilizing the cloud environment. Everyone, please check it. All right? Cloud adoption framework, CAF, right? Please check it. From strategy to go live, everything. It has given you the different things that you factor into consideration before you go live with respect to your cloud environment. Right? These are just other benefits of the cloud vis-a-vis the cloud infrastructure. Yes, cloud adoption framework or the well architected framework. The two actually, not all, and the cloud adoption framework and the well architected framework. Two, please. Right? One teaches you what to do before you adopt the cloud. Another one teaches you how to effectively build in the cloud. Right? So two, cloud adoption framework and well architected framework. Two. Right? Good. So on-prem infrastructure and also cloud infrastructure, as you can see, cloud infrastructure, days rather than months. This days rather than months, pay-as-you-go model, provider managed resources, instant scalability, right? Public cloud, very, very important, right? These are things that we factor into consideration, right? These are things that we factor into consideration. On-prem infrastructure, several months implementation, high upfront capital expenditure, physical hardware management, and what limited scalability. And this is what differentiates between on-prem and what a private cloud. We don't have limited scalability. We don't have limited scalability with respect to, that's one of the primary difference between an on-prem and what a private cloud. Right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. But these are some of the various advantages and various comparison between what on-prem and also leveraging cloud primarily. Strategic decisions, time to market, cost efficiency, and what competitive edge. Right? We discussed this already. I can implement and I can deploy an application on the cloud within what 10-15 minutes. and it's something that we can actually test run. We'll time ourselves 10 minutes. I can create an application that I will share you a URL. You will open it and it works within 10 minutes. Does not mean that I would have built the entire application in 10 minutes. No, but I will give you a live application in less than 10 minutes. It will be working, but doesn't mean that every possible requirement has been effectively done. No, but I can have one up and running now in less than 10 minutes. In fact, in less than 5 minutes, if my internet is pretty good. No, let me say, let's say less than 10 minutes. So let me exaggerate. Right? Cost what? Efficiency. We already said capital expenditure, operational expenditure. The cloud primarily operates what? Operational expenditure. As against capital expenditure. Competitive edge, right? It gives you competitive edge over what? Your competitors. Fast to market, easy deployment, faster deployment, right? etc. Flexibility, etc. These are various things that we factor into consideration, right? Cloud computing versus on-prem infrastructure. You can see cloud computing, on-prem infrastructure, what? Full control. The organization owns full control of everything. Right? Full control of everything. Direct access, right? Provides platform like Exchange servers, file systems, databases through the internal network infrastructure. And what? Internal support requires dedicated personnel for maintenance, monitoring, and support of all technology, systems, and equipment. And if we were to look at this vis-a-vis a public cloud, universal access everywhere from anywhere and everywhere, right? Virtualized infrastructure, right? Cloud providers own and manage physical hardware, delivering virtualized access through internet connectivity. And what? Elastic scalability. Resources can expand or collapse based on demand. We also have this, right? This is one of the difference between the on-prem, the traditional data center, and your private cloud. Right? Where's I saw something, I was going to show something. When I see it again, Sha. Right? It is scalable. It is scalable. These are some of the things that, is it me? Share screen. Is it for me? Mr. Ahmad, is it for me?
I've never seen the. Are you the ones that remove the computer sharing screen?
I'm
Hello?
sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry, come again.
I have never seen your computer screen. Are you the ones that remove it?
No, I think I'm still sharing my screen.
So I have never seen it now. I
I
don't
think
know.
you should get off the call and reconnect.
Send you a screenshot of my phone.
Who else can see my screen?
The screen is visible. Ahmad, I think you can log off the call and come back on.
Okay, let me check.
And
Okay,
Mr.
please.
Femi, to remind, we'll be going for 30 minutes break by 12 o'clock, and we'll be back by 12:30 Nigerian time.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Right? Good. Before we go for, let me show something. Give me a minute. Let me do this. Let me show something before we go for break. I want to show something. Let me do this. What the list for cloud computing. I want to share you the NIST document for yes, NIST SP 800-145. Let me see if we can show you where the download is. They should have, they've not republished, they should have republished this document. It's still 2011. They should have reworked this particular document, right? So I just want to show you something. I just want to show you the primary difference, or what makes the difference between what makes a cloud a cloud. Give me a minute. Or what makes it cloud computing primarily? Because I've seen different. Oh, this is not the full. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I want to share my screen. Give me a minute. You see my screen now. All right. Yes, let me share my screen so you see for so before we go for a break, where's this thing? Yep, this is it. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes,
Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen.
All right, good. So this is the NIST SP 800-145. So this primarily guides the definition of various cloud computing terminologies, right? Good. I want to show different things. Number one, good. This is what makes a cloud a cloud. This is what differentiates between the traditional data center and a private cloud. All right, it needs to have, I think I mentioned it earlier, Sha. It needs to have these requirements or these features. These are the essential characteristics of what cloud. If I've seen, in fact, I've audited. There was one time I did audit for various banks, and we're meant to review their cloud environment, be it public cloud and private cloud environment. And there was a mix-up within some CIOs that said, okay, you know what, you mean our data center. When you say our private cloud, you mean our data center. I was trying to make them understand that, there's a primary difference between a traditional data center and a private cloud, right? If your traditional data center has not been configured to have these 5 core principles or these 5 core features, then it is still a traditional data center. All right, then it is still a traditional data center. So these are the primary characteristics of what? A cloud, right? Primarily. So another thing I wanted to show you was this. right? The different deployment models, right? The different deployment models. I know I showed you earlier, but I also wanted you to see, you know, the definition from an accredited, no, let me say an accredited, no, let me say an accredited body, but, you know, from a well-known or well-established, you know, entity, right? So you can see the various definitions of what a private cloud is, and what a community cloud is, and what a public cloud is, or what an hybrid, and also what an hybrid cloud is, right? Primarily, you can see the private cloud, the cloud infrastructure is provisioned for exclusive use by a single organization, right? By a single organization comprising of multiple customers. The multiple customers that they are referring to are what? Internal customers, not external customers, right? Internal customers, which in turn, what they are saying are the various business units, right? Because, you know, we have internal, the company has both internal and external customers, right? Good, but that's not the conversation for today. So it may be owned, managed, and what operated by the organization or a third party, or some combination, right? It could be both managed by both the organization and what, a third party, right? And it may exist on or off premises, right? It's very, very important that we factor some of these things into consideration, right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. And this is just an abstract of the NIST. Yes, this is the NIST, but this is a long time, Sha. I want to believe that some of these things should have changed by now, because this is almost 15 years now. So is this information still relevant? Can we even say this information is still relevant if they've not made certain changes to this particular documentation till now, right? Or maybe they've revised it in another number that, you know, we've typically not seen. But let me show you this. I was going to show you, I wanted a pictorial representation that could, you know, show certain differences. Good, let me do this. I wanted something from Microsoft. No, this is not. I want the picture. View picture. Open image in a new tab. Good. So let's see the various. Good. So as you can see, on-premise and private cloud, right? You can see the on-premises, you know, the virtual machines, including servers and all the associated components, are running within the boundaries of the company, right? But for private cloud, the physical servers and all the associated data are managed by third-party cloud vendor and offshore location. No, this is not accurate as well, right? This is not accurate as well, because it can be managed within the organization's environment. So this information also is not accurate. So I look for something specifically from Microsoft or from AWS or from GCP, the big three. And then, you know, you can see, you know, the primary difference between a private cloud and an on-premise environment, right? The third-party cloud vendors are responsible for maintenance of the servers, and this is also not entirely, you know, valid, right? Depending on how you have set up the environment. But I just wanted to at least give you an understanding that, you know, when we talk about private cloud, this is primarily what we mean, right? So it's not managed or it's not operated the typical way as you operate a public cloud, or as we use a public cloud. That was what I was trying to say initially, that it's not all cloud environments that you access through the internet, right? So these are just some of things that I also wanted to factor into consideration. But this definition is also not entirely valid. So I would look for something from GCP or from Microsoft or from AWS before we come back from break, right? So before we come back from break, I believe I should have seen something that clearly shows what I want to see effectively and efficiently, because most people still struggle to clearly show that gray area, right? Most people still struggle to show that gray area. But one thing that we know, one thing that is certain, is that what if your traditional data center doesn't effectively operate those features that we showed from the NIST publication, right? I'll still check if there's a recent update to that risk publication that I shared, right? If there's no update, maybe they've translated it into another, publication. When I see that, I'll also definitely ensure that we communicate and we share it with everybody, right? So yes, I just wanted you to have it at the back of your mind that there are different cloud environments, there are different approaches to managing, our cloud environment, right? Good. There are different ways of even accessing the various cloud environment, even within the public cloud, even within Azure, right? If I don't want to access um if I don't want to access resources on the cloud via the internet, I can ensure that it will not work, that you can't even access most of these resources through the internet. We can do that as well, right? So these are just certain things that we wanted to at least show you before we go for break, right? So these are some of the major cloud service providers. As you can see, we've mentioned AWS, we've mentioned GCP, we've mentioned Microsoft Azure, DigitalOcean, Wasabi Technology. We have Alibaba. We have over 50 cloud environments, right? Not every is not, I've seen organizations say, because of the cost implication, we don't use the big three, right? I've seen an organization that we were implementing for, and their cloud environment is one organization that is in Singapore. Yes, an organization. Yes, I've forgotten the name. The client is in the, but they were saving about 50 or 60%. In fact, I think it was 70%. They were saving 70% costing if they were to go for Microsoft or one of the big threes or the big fours. They were saving about 70% more. But at what expense? Right? We reviewed the client, and the client did not have any information security policy. There were no privacy protection policies. It shows that they didn't follow any mode or any standard of operation, right? Which is not advisable. I know cost could be a big factor or deciding factor in what you want to do or how you want to do it, but doesn't mean that you should now compromise your entire environment because you want something cheaper, right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration, right? So let's go for a break. Let's go for a break now. It's 11 o'clock. Let's go for a break. I think we can go for a break for 30 minutes now. Sorry. How many more hours do we have after we come back for break, so that I know how we would uh, we would move. Coordinator, hello, are you still here? Am I still audible? Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm audible. Okay, maybe they were okay. I see hands raised. Kayode, please, the floor is yours. No, that's not what I'm saying. No, I didn't say Azure. right? Azure is 100% secure. Azure has Azure is compliant to about 40 to 50% of the standards. PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, NDPA. Are they compliant? Yes, they are compliant to NDPA. They are compliant to about 50 security standards globally. Right? So the Azure is definitely secure. AWS is secure. I was given a use case that a client of ours, they went for a cloud environment hosted in Singapore with a cloud provider in Singapore. And when we were doing some prior evaluation, we reached out to them that we have to review all their information security policies, privacy protection, all of these things, because you are housing a company's environment within your data centers, and they couldn't show us anything from information security policy to privacy protection, nothing. Right? So we were seeing lots of red flags, and the organization chose that because of the amount of money they were saving vis-a-vis using Azure, AWS, GCP, and the likes. That's what I was trying to say, that because we are looking for cheaper, shouldn't be at the expense of your organization, right? Shouldn't be at the expense of the reputation of your organization and other relevant things. Oh, Chijoke said maybe the coordinator has gone for break, right? So I think we can go for a break. I don't know how long we will be on the call for after. So I would want to ensure that we finish this slide. I want to ensure that we finish this slide before we finish. So when we come back, I'll just ensure that we move at a faster pace. Right? Good. So let's go for a break. I think 30 minutes. Please, any feedback, any suggestions before we go for break? Any feedback, suggestions before we go for break? But I might likely just increase the pace a little bit when we come back so that we can conclude the slides today. Right? And I can even show you some demos by God's grace. All right. Any suggestions, any feedback before we go for break? All right, that's fine. I think we can go for a break then. I think the break is for 30 minutes, right? And if you also want us to proceed, I'm available to proceed too, though. So All right, no issues at all. Let me go back to, resharing my screen. All right, I hope everybody can see my screen. I hope we can proceed. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let us proceed. Cloud storage solution. Good. Cloud storage solution, we have hot site storage, we have network attached storage, we have data lakes. It's very, very important that I also say something that it's not limited to this. Right? It's not limited to this. So I'm tempted to do this. Give me a minute. Let me show you something. So there are different storage options on the cloud. Right? There are different storage options on the cloud. We were talking about the enterprise cloud. There are different storage options. We have blob storage, we have file storages, we have queue storages, we have table storages. Right? If we're talking about enterprise cloud, these are certain things that we factor into consideration. Are we together? When we're talking about enterprise cloud, we have, and please note that the nomenclature that I'm using is primarily typical to the Microsoft Azure, right? But in situations, nomenclatures may change. Are we together? Nomenclatures may change depending on the different cloud environment or the different cloud platforms, right? For example, we have storage on AWS called S3 bucket, right? So depending on the different cloud environment and the different cloud platform, right, we have different naming conventions and we have different nomenclatures, right? Outside storage is not primarily a typical storage on the cloud. So what I'm saying is it comes as a feature in some situations. We have hot tier with respect to the Microsoft Azure. We have hot tier, we have cold tier, right? So all of these features are just, based on what you intend to do, based on for some, for data whereby you access, frequently, right? For data whereby you access frequently, you would use a certain type of storage for that. For data whereby you don't access, very frequently, use a certain type of storage or certain feature and certain type of storage for that as well. So if we're talking about enterprise wide, right? If we're talking about cloud storage at an enterprise level, right, we'll be talking about the primary component, right, which is we have the blob storage, which is also known as container storages. We have containers. We also have file storages, which is the normal type of storage whereby you're using, storing your normal files, your typical files, right? Files, data, whatever you want to store. We have table storage. We also have queue storages, right? If we have time, I will show you all of these things on Microsoft Azure so that you are very, very familiar. You are very conversant with some of these things. So we also have, some various types of storage, like outside storage, where you have mission critical data stored in one location for immediate access when needed most. So it's also very, very important that I clearly air that this is not specific to the cloud environment. This is not typically specific to the enterprise cloud environment, right? Because within your traditional data center or your on-prem environment, we have most of these things. Within every enterprise environment, we have our network attached storage, whereby if your laptop is connected to the internet network, you would see this. You would see this storage show up within your C drive, within that place where you have your C drive. Then when you click on it, you see your network attached storage there, right? But what I'm trying to say is this particular tool is not really specific or spelled out primarily for the cloud. But I told you that the cloud and the on-prem, the approach and the fundamental principles are the same. The only difference are the nomenclature. It's very, very important that we have that at the back of our mind. The only difference is the nomenclature. But I now want to show you, I'm trying to open my Azure account, right? So that I show you, I won't go into the labs, but I just want to give you a taste of, when we say storage, what are the things that we look at? What are some of the things that we factor into consideration, right? So I would show you that now. My network is pretty terrible, so I won't waste too much time waiting for it. So when it comes up, I would go to the platform, right? So yes, we also have data lake. Data lake, something called Azure Data Lake. This is for managing and operating big data primarily, right? This is for managing big data, large amounts of data, right? We had something prior to now called Hadoop, HADOOP, right? These are just, approaches or storages that we use in managing and operating, big data. However, it is very, very important for me to state that if we are talking about the enterprise cloud, right, you will not, these are not the primary things that you'll be hearing off the shelf, or that these are not the primary things that you'll be hearing. You'll be hearing things like storage accounts, you'll be hearing things like S3 buckets, you'll be hearing things like, your data storage, your blob storage, your queue storage, your table storage, depending on what you are doing within the cloud environment, right? If you're working with applications, most applications will store their data using queue storage, right? So there are different approaches and there are different patterns that we would leverage and we would use. Are we together? So it's very, very important. My Azure account is not opening. Oh, okay. It's opening. Give me a minute. Let me share this. So I will still give you an introduction into the Azure environment, but this is just for a specific purpose. I just want to show you the different storage accounts that we have on a sample cloud environment, right? We will still talk about the Azure environment when we have time, right? So I'm not jumping the gun, right? And I'm not skipping any process or any step, right? This is just to show you when we talk about storage, right? I just want to show you something. So it's very, very important that we come here. If before you create any form of storage, you need a storage account, right? This is just, I will still talk about all of these things, right? I just want to show you something, just for emphasis sake, right? To show you when you talk about storage on the cloud, on an enterprise cloud, right? Enterprise cloud. When I mean these types of cloud: public cloud, Azure cloud, AWS cloud, GCP, right? And even what private clouds, right? These are certain things that we factor into consideration. So let me just show you something. So good, thank God, there's a sample cloud, there's a sample storage account here. So I want to show you the different categories of storage that we have on a public cloud. Right, the network attached storage, we can have that on our private, on our private cloud. We can even have it. For next part, we can even have it attached to our. We can even have storage accounts attached to our on-premise resource. We can do that as well. There are lots of things that we can do. But to me, try not to confuse you. Let me just show you one or two things that I want to show you with respect to what the storage cloud storage. When we talk about storage on the cloud, you can see here, this is a storage, blob storage. All right, blob storage. I was talking about the hot and cool. This is the different categories. All right, we have hot, we have cool, we have archival. Right, so depending on what you want to use it for will determine the type that you select. Can you see we have hot, we have cool, and we have cold, right? These are the different access tier. right? Based on the operation that you want it for. But like I said, I will not confuse you with this today, right? I just want to show you the different categories or the different aspect or the different types of cloud storage, public cloud storage, right? On Azure, on AWS and GCP, the naming conventions will be different, but the approach, right, and the pillars or the principles still remains the same. So good. This is blob storage. One, are we together? This is file storage, right? This is skill storage, and this is table, right? These are some of the different types of storage that we have specific to the public cloud. For example, Azure. Now, this is specific to Azure now. When we're looking at AWS, you will see that when you click on the S3 bucket, you see more insights into all of these things, right? Good. When we do practicals, I'll show you how to create all of this. I will show you how to upload files. I'll show you how to even um, merge it or connect it to your local machine. We can do all of those things. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. But I just wanted you to get an insight into, some of the various storage types, right, that we have relative to the cloud environment, right? Note that this wasn't done to confuse you, right? We'll still have sessions whereby, we'll talk about all of this in detail, right? We'll still have time whereby we'll talk about all of these things in detail. Good. Now let us proceed. Good. This is the NIST computing definition. We already showed you some of these things from that particular NIST SP 800 5, I think it was 512. I can't really remember the name, but based on that diagram is where we got this, right? Good. This is what makes it. This is what makes up a cloud, right? On-demand self-service. You can easily create resources at will. Measured service. You can easily measure what you've used per time, right? It's pay as you go, right? You can measure what you've used at this particular time. You would know, which service is, utilizing or, using so amount of money. We can do all of these things. Very, very important, right? We know how much our VM has used. We know how much our virtual network has used. We know how much our databases, our applications, we know how much they've used. You can easily monitor, and you only pay for consumption, right? You only pay for what you use. You don't pay for more, you don't pay for less. You only pay specific to what you use, measured service, right? These are some of the things that we factor. Broad access network, right? You can access it from anywhere. You can access it from anywhere, right? Using multiple or different resources or different endpoint devices, right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. What else? Resource pooling, right? Cloud service providers in this situation would put resources together to serve multiple customers. They will pull multiple resources together to serve multiple customers. That's why, so I made an example. I said that, we could both have a VM running on Azure, a VM instance running on Azure, and both my own Azure VM and your own Azure VM are within a single Azure data center, data center, a host within their data center. Both our resources could be on one particular server within their environment, right? So these are certain things that we factor into consideration, but specific to the type of cloud that we're using, right? We already said that private cloud is a dedicated cloud environment. They are not sharing. There's no shared tenancy. They're specific to that particular organization, right? So that's just the primary difference in that one, right? I also have rapid elasticity. You can scale up, you can scale down at will. That's one of the benefits. That's one of the benefits of leveraging our cloud environment, right? I can scale up and I can scale down at will. Oh, I can say that, okay, you know what? We created a virtual machine, or we created a resource. But this resource, based on the traffic or based on the load or on this particular application, what we currently have, our underlying infrastructure, will not suffice. We need more capacity to meet up with, that particular demand on service. Unlike the traditional way of doing things, this one we can easily scale up at will. What do we need? We need to increase, the capacity of the VM. We can easily do that. We need to change the type of app service plan to accommodate more. We can easily do that at the click of a button. And we can make that changes within 10 minutes, give or take. Right? And these are some of the things that we factor. We can even do auto scaling. Right? If this particular resources, if the traffic or the threshold gets to this particular level, add an extra VM. If it reaches another level, add another extra VM. If traffic on that particular application reduces, remove that VM. These are some of the things that we can easily, create and configure. Right? These are some of the things that we will create, that we can create and configure. Right? So these are examples, so these are examples of, what makes up a cloud, or what makes up cloud computing. What are some of the features? These are the features. These are the features of cloud computing. These are the features of cloud computing. Right? Good. We also have, cloud service models. We say we have cloud deployment models, and we also have cloud service models. Cloud service models are what? Software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, right? Infrastructure as a service, provides virtualized computing resources, including servers, storage, and network components over the internet, right? We also have what? Platform as a service offers development. I said what? Platform as a service is development centric. If you remember what I said, it's more development centric. It offers development and deployment platforms with tools, libraries, and services for application. And we know the software as a service already. It delivers a complete software application over the internet and accessible through what? Web browsers or applications, right? Good. Let's give more practical insights so that at least we are together. Let me also share my screen again so that we see something. Are we still together? Are we still together, please?
Yes, we are.
All right, good. So let me show you one more thing here. So we split it into different categories: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Right? Software as a service is a no-brainer. Everybody here, you're familiar with software as a service, right? For example, if I go to portal.office.com, this is a software as a service. Right? It's coming up. My internet is pretty terrible. I don't know. This is one of the limitations of, All right. If I go here now, it has given me a software application over the internet, right? That I can work with. Right? That I can work with. Please give me a minute. Let me just pick this call. I'm so sorry. That was my wife calling. All right, good. Now this is Microsoft 365. This is a software as a service platform, right? This is a software application delivered to us over the internet. You have a license, you go ahead to use it, right? It's not a typical, software that we just, run on application. And no, this one we access it primarily over the internet. And we've seen the different responsibilities from the cloud service customer to the cloud service provider, what you do, what they do, etc. Right? I believe that is clear. So now let's go here. Let's see when we talk about infrastructure as a service. What are some of the things that they factor into consideration? We look at what? Computing. Computing on different levels, right? There's computing at the platform as a service level. There's also computing at the infrastructure as a service level. Are we together? So when we talk about infrastructure as a service, what do we refer to? The first thing I want to come to is what? Our virtual machines. It's still loading. As you can see, it's coming up. Let me go to all services rather, so that you see everything. Pardon my internet. Oh, it happens like that. Let me share. Let me close this. Maybe too many tabs. All right, it's still opening. I should have gone through by now. So that's the problem. All right, good. So if I were to go to what? Computing. Good. This is compute. Can you see here? I believe everyone can see my screen. You can see infrastructure as a service, right? Good. So this is everything under infrastructure as a service. When it comes to compute, are we together? You can see the ones that are infrastructure as a service. This is everything on infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service. This is platform as a service. Right? So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. So depending on the different categories, you would see that you have different different service model types. Are we together? You have infrastructure as a service. For example, right? This is infrastructure as a service. Azure SQL on an Azure virtual machine is an infrastructure as a service. Right? So these are just examples of the different cloud service models that we have. Right? Good. Now let's go back to the slide. Now let us go back to the slide. Now let us go back to the slide. Okay, let's proceed. Now we talked about cloud deployment models. This is not new to everybody, right? Good. Yes, I said I wanted to show you something from AWS about the private cloud. Let me share this with you so that you can all check it out. Let me share this with you. I'm sharing the URL. Right? But while also sharing the URL, let me just share my screen as well. And I said I was going to get you a perfect definition of what the private cloud will primarily, will look like. Can you see my screen? Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, you can see your
Good,
screen.
good. Thank you. Right. So you can see that what there are different categories of private clouds. Right. So you can see the different categories of what a private cloud. You can see on-premise private cloud. Right. That is the one that's what you've deployed your own resources within your internal data center. We have the managed private cloud, whereby I told you that something around being one Equinox. They have their own environment that they can provision a private cloud for you. And there's another cloud platform, Cloud SH or Cloud something. I've forgotten the name, right? And we have the VPC. So you can see that there are different types, which primarily still now solidifies what I was saying earlier, that you don't primarily need to go through the internet, but you don't primarily need to go through the internet for every cloud deployment model, right? It's not saying we only have access to our cloud resources through the internet is a fallacy. It's not fact, right? It's not fact, but doesn't mean that we primarily don't access to the internet. You get there are different ways. Like I said, if it's developed and if it's built within our internal data center, right? You can access it through your internal network. So there are different ways and there are different approaches to access the cloud environment, right? I just wanted to show you guys this as well before we also proceed, right? Good. Now let us go back to the slide, because I think we would be calling it a day shortly. But let me go back to sharing my slide. I hope we're together. Are we still together? Any confusion so far? Are we together?
Yes, sir, we are okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, now let us proceed. Good. So the next thing I want to talk about, we have different virtualization technology, right? If you were operating a private cloud in some organizations, right, these are technologies that you use in setting up a private cloud. VMware, Microsoft, Citrix, etc. Right? It just gives you virtualization capacity, right? The ability to deploy or the ability to make your physical server, or to prepare your physical server into a virtualization environment, right? All Windows application, all Windows system have the capacity. You can go in to turn on your Hyper-V, right? When you turn on your Hyper-V on your typical Windows, typically, right, you need to have a certain specification of system to do some of these things, right? Good. In most times, you should even do most of these things on a server OS, but doesn't mean that we also don't have the feature or the functionality on our traditional operating system, right? We also have that capacity, right? But is it the best possible way to do so? No, right? There are different approaches to do some of these things, right? So good, virtualization technology is not new to anybody, right? Virtualization technology is not new to. When will you finish election? Its time is 1 p.m. I thought they said 2 p.m. I thought they said 2 p.m. Or is it 1 p.m.? I
The
thought they
lecture
said
is
2
by 2 p.m.
2
2 p.m.
p.m.
2
Okay,
p.m.
okay, thank you. Okay. All right, thank you. Good. So these are the various, solutions that we can use. In fact, VirtualBox. I currently have VirtualBox rolling, and I have two operating system. I have two virtual machines on my current PC. Right. So there are different approaches. There are different technologies to ensure that you have a virtualization environment, or you have a virtualized environment. Right. This technology is available to all now, like globally, right? You can easily have a virtualized environment as we are talking, right? This is not, it's not new. But the only difference is, when we talk about enterprise, there's a certain scale, right? There's a certain scale that you need to operate as an enterprise organization, because, the way you do things as an enterprise and the way I would probably have a virtualized environment will be two different things, right? Because I'm not doing any production heavy environment. I don't need to have that. What I probably have is a dev environment just to, you know, try to do things and break things, right? So it's very, very important that we have this, to take some of these things into consideration. So what are some of the benefits of, you know, using the virtualization technology, you know, scaling? You know, I also talked about scalability, you know, scaling virtually, scaling horizontally. You know, these are some of the features that we have. Flexible, cost efficiency. You don't need to go and start buying different servers to do different things. You can have one server, you know, ensure that you've enabled the virtualization capabilities on those servers, and then you start creating virtual machines on that particular server that you have, right? So depending on the specs that you've created, depending on the specs of the physical server that you've got, you can create over 10 or 15 servers, virtual servers on one physical server, depending on what you have, right? Depending on what you have and depending on how you operate. So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration, right? Good. The future is hybrid. The future is hybrid. And you will see another thing in the next 2 years. You see another thing that says the future is cloud, fully cloud, no more hybrid, right? Most organizations are not keeping locations anymore. We don't want physical, no physical environment. Everything is on the cloud, right? But yes, currently the feature is hybrid, right? This is the most flexible deployment model that you can have, right? You have resources within the private cloud. You also have resources within the private cloud, and you have resources within the Michael, virtualization technology is just typically having a container within a container. You know, within port, let me put it this way. When we come from, when they say our container don't land, this is me even using, I can use this analogy in different criteria, right? When they package your containers, right, when they bring, let's say when you ship cars from, let's say overseas, right, your cars primarily sits within a particular container, right? So in fact, let me use another analogy. So let me open draw IO. Give me a minute. So that I can I'm trying to bring out draw IO so that I can show you this is coming up, but all right, so this is coming up. I want to use this to show a description, right? But the concept of virtualization is, allowing one physical computer, right? One physical computer to behave like many independent computers or resources, right? I told you initially that I use an example that instead of an organization having multiple physical servers to do multiple things, like let's say, okay, we have different applications that we want to build, right? We have different applications that we're trying to build. Instead of getting one physical server for that application, we can have that one physical server and enable virtualization capabilities on that particular server, so that we can build, or I don't use deploy, but we can build or deploy multiple machines on that particular physical server, right? So it's just more as the ability to enable one particular to enable a physical server create multiple virtual resource. So good, let me do this. Okay, so let's say there's a let's say this is a server. Let's say this is a physical server, right? We've gotten a physical server from Dell, IBM, depending on, where we've gotten our server from, right? Good. We can configure our server as a web server, right? We can configure it as a web server. We can enable IIS and make it, configure it to become a web server. We can do that, right? And the reason why we want to do that is probably to ensure that we deploy different applications on it, right? We can do lots of things, right, with a particular server. There are different services that we can do. There are lots of things that we can do, right? Good. But let's just use an example of, let's say, as an organization, we're trying to deploy an application, right? Let's say we're trying to deploy an application. Let's say we're trying to deploy a core banking application here. Let's say we're trying to deploy a core banking application. Let me lock this. Let's say we're trying to deploy an application on this particular server, typically, right? And let's now say, okay, you know what? Instead of saying, oh, we have a new requirement, let's say we have another application or web application or a critical or strategic web application that we want to develop and build, right? Instead of saying that, okay, let's get another server. Let's get another server that, we can also, we have another application. Let's just buy another server and just, deploy another application on this another particular server. Instead of doing this, right? What we now do with virtualization is do this. This physical server now would ensure that we now create a virtualization capacity. Right? So we'll create this. We'll create a virtualization capabilities either with Hyper-V. Right? Hypervisor, right? Good. We have Hyper-V running here. So with Hyper-V, instead of saying, okay, you know what, there's a new requirement to create multiple, we need different environments to, deploy different applications, right? Instead of doing, okay, let's have a different physical server for a different requirement. No, we can configure virtualization on this initial server. So when we create, we set up the virtualization feature, it now gives us the ability to what? To create multiple what? Virtual machines on this. It now gives us the ability to create what? Different virtual machines on this particular server. Right? Good. Which now gives us the ability to now say, okay, you know what? Within this VM, we can go and create, let's say, oh, we can have different what? Applications running on each of these various virtual machines. But the only difference here is that what? We've configured this our physical server to have what? A virtualization capability using what? The Hyper-V service. And because we've enabled that on this physical what? Server, we have the ability to now what? Create multiple what? Instances of what? Systems, virtual machines, servers on this particular what? Environment. Do you understand? Do you understand? So instead of dedicating one particular physical server to one particular workload, you can what? Enable what? Virtualization capabilities on that particular what? Server to enable you create multiple VM resources. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Oh, good. Thank you. So that's what it primarily means. And there are different, technologies that we can use for virtualization. You can use VMware, you can use, virtual, but VMware is more enterprise, right? You can use virtual, but there are lots depending on what you want to do and how you intend to do it. Right? Good. Now let us proceed. So good. These are just some of the things that we factor into consideration. Now let's proceed. Let's get back to that particular material so that we just proceed. Good. All right, let's go. I want to ensure that at least we've done half of this particular material today. Good. Future is hybrid. We already talked about hybrid, right? We already talked about hybrid cloud. It's a mixture, a combination of both public and private. So that is not new to everybody on the call because we've discussed it. Cloud service delivery models, right? We've talked about deployment models and we've talked about delivery models. But let's see what we have here. Cloud delivery models have evolved dramatically as technology advances. We've talked about this, so this is just a repetition of what was discussed here. No, here. Right? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So it's just, a repetition of what we have there, right? It's just a repetition of what we have there. We've talked about this infrastructure layer, platform layer, and also, the software layer. That's where we have the IaaS, the PaaS, and the SaaS, right? We talked about all of these things already, right? Good. The infrastructure as a service, you can see core components, virtual servers, hardware, OS, networking, connectivity, and storage, right? And we have the platform as a service, database services, backup system, file services. It goes beyond this, right? Not primarily limited to this. It's very, very important that I stated that. That's why, I showed you some of those things earlier, right? Good. a perfect diagram will be this. Let me show you something on this. Microsoft has showed there's a diagram that clearly shows this with Microsoft. So let me see it. I'm trying to show you guys so that you see everything. There's one Microsoft specific diagram that I'm looking at. Or better say that I'm looking for. They showed no, I want specifics. I can't see it here, but when I see it, I'll bring it up. When I see it, I'll bring it up. I can't see it here. It will be in one of my Microsoft materials. I'll bring it up when I get it. Right? I'll bring it up when I get it. All right, let us proceed. Good. So these are just, the various categories that we have. Emerging service models, database as a service, communication as a service, testing as a service. In fact, we have everything as a service, right? We have everything as a service, right? We have everything as a service. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration, right? So these are just some of the new emerging models that we probably have now. We have database as a service, it's called managed services. We have managed instances on Azure, right? Whereby everything you're doing is managed, security, everything is primarily managed by your cloud service provider, right? So we have a whole lot of these things. That's why when I started this course, I said, it's pretty vague. Cloud computing is very vague. It's a lot. That's why we have about 4 or 5 or 6 different roles when we talk about cloud computing. It's not something that you can consume from start to finish alone. Well, it's just you might have knowledge of everything, bits and pieces, but you will not be solid in everything. Have I seen people who are solid in everything? Possible. We have geniuses, right? But it's pretty hard for you to do everything. Good. SLAs, service level agreement. This is pretty straightforward. You might be wondering why we have SLAs when we're talking about cloud computing, right? Because we always have SLAs with any service provider, be it providing for the cloud, be it providing for network, be it providing a software solution, be it providing anything. There's always an SLA, and we have that SLA with Microsoft as well. There's something called a public SLA. Let me do this. I'm trying to, so that I don't start going back and forth. Give me a minute. Let me do this. Trying to bring my everything into one place. Give me a minute. I'm trying to bring everything into one place so that I won't be going back and forth. Okay, good. All right, let me also bring my Azure environment into one place so that I'll just share this particular application so that we're together. Okay, so let me reshare my screen. Where's this screen too? All right, you should see a new, so I can go up and down. Yes, this is what I'm trying to do. All right, good. Let's proceed so that I can just easily swap through my Oh, sorry. So that I can easily swap through my slides and my browser so that in case I want to show you anything, I can easily show you whatever I want to show you. Okay, I think we're here. Good. So I was going to show you a public SLA with Microsoft, right? So when I say public SLA, what do I mean? What am I referring to? This is what I'm referring to, right? I just want to give, clarity with respect to what we are looking at. There's something called Microsoft SLA. Microsoft Azure SLA. So it gives you an SLA. You can see this is the SLA for all online services. Most people who use the cloud don't even go through some of these things. They've listed out all the SLAs for what? Which one? What's the latest one? This is the latest one, January 2026, as you can see. Let's see the difference. Okay, if I download it, this is it. This is what it. You see that it covers everything, all Microsoft services. It covers all Microsoft services, everything, right? So if I were to open this, right, I just want to show you, practical things so that you see real life what we mean for all of these things. It's still coming up, as you can see on my screen, still coming up. So just give it a minute or two. Are we still together? Hope it's not information overload. Are we still together?
Yes, we are together.
Yes, we are together.
We are together.
Good. All right, perfect. So you can see this is a sample SLA from Microsoft for all their online services. So if you look at this page, can you see this page? You see for Microsoft Dynamics 365, I see Office 365. So if you use their services, this is what they've given you. These are the SLAs that they've given you in alignment to all their various resources, right? You can see this is what they've given you. This is the SLA. This is everything that you factor into consideration. Most people don't know that they are privileged to certain credits when Microsoft doesn't even deliver certain practices to them. And it's the same with AWS, it's the same with GCP, it's the same with Azure. Most people don't go through this SLA. There's a public SLA for everybody, for all the services they render to you. If you use the Azure environment, this is the public SLA. Review this SLA. There's a downtime for 10 minutes. What's does our agreement say? I look at this, I see that, the downtime actually exceeds 10 minutes, which is what I subscribe to based on, your uptime percentage. There's a way to calculate that one as well, as you can see here. Based on my uptime percentage, it goes beyond 10 minutes. It means that I am privy to getting service credits. So there are penal fees attached to most of these things, but we don't review, we don't look through. I know it's a lot, but these are certain things that we need to ensure that we do. These are certain things that we ensure that we do. Right? It's very, very important. This is not a sample. This is the actual SLA that Microsoft has with all its users. This is the public SLA available to everyone who uses a Microsoft service, be it 365, be it Azure, anything that you currently use. Right? Please also note that because I said this is an SLA, there are different categories. We also have enterprise agreements with top, enterprises. So this might not apply to almost everybody, but it applies to all their services. But there are other enterprise agreements that Microsoft will have with, the likes of Deloitte, all this top, let me say Deloitte, all this top, Fortune 500 companies or enterprise organizations, right? The organizations that spends over $10 million annually for licenses, right? Those organizations, they don't follow this. They have an enterprise agreement with them, right? Good. Very, very important that we note that. All right, let's proceed. Let us proceed. So, good. The next thing I want to factor into consideration is this. So I already showed you that, you need to understand what your contract requirement says, not just with Microsoft, right? But if you have other third parties that you're using, if you're using Equinox, if you're using other, service cloud providers, ensure that you have an agreement with them, ensure that you monitor it very well, uptime, downtime of services, and ensure that penalties and compliance are certain things that we factor into consideration. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. And like I said, this is not limited to just cloud. It's everything, right? It is not limited to cloud. It is literally everything. Pricing mode, I already told you. Pay as you go for public cloud and VPC. What's the difference between service level agreement and enterprise? So it's typically, so let me put it this way, right? SLA is the generic term. Service level agreement is the generic term that we have with our vendors or service providers. Do you get? So globally, generally, SLA is what we're referring to. But I'm just saying that when it comes to Microsoft services, there are enterprise agreements that Microsoft would have with enterprise organizations. There are some organizations that differ from the rest, right? There are some things that Microsoft will lift for certain organizations. Do you understand what I'm saying? So these kind of things are not really privy to SM, you get small, medium businesses. No. When we talk about enterprises, so there are certain agreements, negotiations that can occur. Do you get, when you are leveraging the enterprise agreements with clients? But please, we're not doing either. So the question should not be the difference between SLA. Because even with an enterprise agreement, even if you're going into an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, you still need an SLA with Microsoft. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is just an added feature, right? For organizations, for large organizations, when it comes to utilizing Microsoft services. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's not either this or that. No, SLA is SLA, generic. We're not taking away from SLA. We have SLA, we have OLAs. OLA is more operational, internal. SLAs is external with your service provider. But do you get? So after you have an enterprise agreement with probably between Microsoft and an enterprise organization based on certain Microsoft product, you still need to have an SLA that shows what Microsoft will be delivering based on the agreement that you have, who's responsible for what the service level target is. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you shouldn't compare the service level agreement, the SLA, with the EA. EA is just an added feature that we have within Microsoft and other big cloud service providers, when you're delivering certain, enterprise services for certain types of organizations. Let me put it that way. Let me see. Like specialized agreement with selected few. Based on the size, yes, I would say that. Based on the size, I can say that, yes. I agree with that. I think I agree with that. Right? So I would show you something, but it's in one Microsoft material. I'll have to look for it, right? So I'll show you. I don't know, probably the next session I'll probably show you. Right? I will show you. So it's in fact, let me see if I can. Let me see. Let me see if I can bring it up. So let me just show you this. My laptop is hanging on. Good. Let me show you this, everybody, please. You can look at this. Right? I showed you a sample. I've sent it to the link now. So if you were to open this, if I were to open this and type Microsoft agreement, enterprise agreement Microsoft, so you see that it is designed for specific organization, large organization with 500 or more users or devices. So they are offering a certain package that will help you save more. Do you get? But that doesn't, that's an agreement, that's a package for a certain type of organization, but it's not for everybody. And it is not taking away from the SLA that you still have with them based on what you've agreed upon. Do you get? I've sent it, but you guys can check it out. Good. So, as I was saying, we have different pricing options, as you can see, depending on the place where you have your resource will determine how much you spend. Yes, that is true. That is not a fallacy. So rumor has it that the cheapest place for you to deploy your resources on the cloud on Microsoft is East US. Rumor has it that the cheapest place for you to deploy resources on Azure cloud is the East US. They said it offers the cheapest rate, right? So these are certain things that we factor into consideration. So geographical pricing also applies. South Africa is pretty expensive. It might be that it's Africa, but it's also expensive. It's even more expensive than East US. Right, so these are some of the things that we factor, and I already told you that utilizing the public cloud or some virtual private clouds, you definitely what you are using is based on the infrastructure, the software, the platform that you will be using, right? So when you spin up a virtual machine, you're paying for all the components of that virtual machine. So most people will think that, oh, I've switched it off. No, because you switched it off doesn't mean that the underlying infrastructure is not what being charged. It's being charged as well, right? So don't just set up an infrastructure on the cloud and say, oh, but I turned it off, but I deallocated it. No, even when you deallocate it, it is still charging. You have to ensure that if it's no longer in use, ensure that you delete it permanently. That is only when you are not being charged. Are we together? Good. We've talked about this already. We've talked about cloud deployment model, so we don't stress about this again. Feature of cloud computing. Cloud computing embodies what? Making as many services as possible available to many customers as possible, with each evolution offering new technological advancement. All right? To be honest, saying the future of cloud computing, anything, the technology is not something that we can put a cap on. All right, you guys heard the news, right? In just a month, oh, I've seen question. I have another question here. Let me see. Since all good, let me see. Since all services are cloud-based that can be accessed anywhere regardless of location, since all services, why then is the price differentiation? Thank you very much for that question. Right? Different regions vary. Right? You're not there when they were setting up that particular data center for that particular region. You don't know the cost implication that went into. You don't know how much they bought the land for the data centers, because they said one region is as big as a football field. NFL, like NFL football. No, not Nigeria. Yes, NFL, right? The American football. Said it's as big. One of the areas is as big as that place. So there are different things that goes into it. Cost implication, a lot of things, right? So because of that, right, power, there are lots of things that they factor into consideration. It could vary per location, right? For example, now if they were to come to Nigeria, we know that it's not sustainable. No disrespect to Nigeria, right? But if they were to come to Nigeria, trust me, the prices that they will be charging for some of these things would also be a lot, because it's not even sustainable. Electricity, a lot of this insecurity, getting land in Nigeria for getting some of these things. Trust me, if you don't pay billions of dollars, it will remain small. There's just one small cubicle in Lekki now. So it's more than 200 million naira, right? So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. So setting up that particular, data center for that specific region, there are different cost implications. And because of the different cost implications per region, will what? It will probably vary per region, and because it varies per region, and because of other what operating costs, that will what definitely affect the pricing. Different location, different political, economical issues. Do you get? If we were to do a person analysis for all the different regions, right? For all the different regions where they have their data center, you see that they don't have. You see that they might have similar issues, but they won't have specific issues. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So when we look at it from that perspective, you see that yes, it's definitely valid for them to have different pricing for different regions or different locations. Stephen, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get it?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Right. So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Now let's proceed. Cloud computing technologies. We have something called the software-defined network. When building the cloud environment, after we've done our physical layer, the next thing that we put on that physical layer is the SDN. Before we then now put our cloud environment. Because a cloud environment will not, it can't operate effectively using the traditional what? Networking infrastructure, networking structure. Right? So what the SDN, what the software-defined network will do is that what? It separates what? Your network control from just the typical hardware that would help you, forward traffic, etc. It has now, we now have another layer upon that physical layer that is called a software-defined network that can make your networking components work effectively on the cloud. Right? So in this particular process, what happens is that what? They allow networks to be centrally managed by what? Using what? Certain what? Softwares. Programmable softwares. That is what they do here. So the typical traditional what? Network architecture will not work for a cloud environment because there are limitations. Right? There are limitations. We know that within the traditional world networking environment, we have different devices that do different things. Right? We have the routers, we have switches, we have firewalls within our traditional what? Networking environment. Some of these things they play different roles. One will say, okay, this is where the traffic should go. One would be the one who forwards the traffic. So we can't use that particular architecture on the cloud. It won't work. So that is why they created a software-defined network that now sits on, after we created the physical layer, right? This is the one that sits within the physical infrastructure that ensures that networking is effectively done within our cloud environment. And we have the different layers. We have the application layer, we have the controller layer, we have the infrastructure layer. Right? The application layer primarily manages application and communication needs to the the SDN controller. There are different, when we talk about SDN controller, the SDN controller serves as the brain. Serves as the brain of the network. Right? It tells you what to do, it calculates the routes, it helps you apply policies, etc. Right? And we have different solutions that can serve as SDNs. The good thing is that for the public cloud, we don't interface with this at any point in time. We don't interface with these at any point, like physically. everything that we do within the cloud uses this to operate, right? All our networking components that we have on the cloud, all our communications leverages on this to operate. But we primarily, we don't do anything on the public cloud, right? But in situations whereby, you have a private cloud and on-premise private cloud, right? These are some of the things that you might need to do. And there are different controllers that you can use. We have VMware NSX. We have Open Daylight. These are some of the things that we can use if we are creating what? An on-premise private cloud, right? But if it's a public cloud or a virtual private cloud managed by what? A third party or by the service provider, you don't interface with this at any point in time, right? And we also have the infrastructure layer. This just contains what? The physical virtual switches and your routers, etc. So the reason why we have this is because the traditional network architectures will not work. That's why they created a software-defined network to effectively enable what? Free flow of networking and communication within your cloud environment. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Right? So with this now, what happens is that network are now, programmable. They can be automated. They can be centrally controlled to fully meet the requirement of the cloud environment. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration, and I mentioned that if you will not be, if you are leveraging a public cloud or a VPC, you would never interface with this at the back end. It's not possible. In fact, even if your organization is doing this, if they are doing a private cloud, an on-premise private cloud, right? The only people who would have the interface or visibility into this is if you are the project manager or if you are the network architect or network engineer primarily. So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Right? Virtualization, I think we've looked at this already, right? I think this is just a replication, right? Virtualization revolution, I think we've seen this virtualization revolution already, right? Advances in virtualization transform network storages, enabling expanded capacity and customized solution while reducing physical blah, 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 right? So these are just, other mode of, storage virtualization. Right, we have something called the storage area network. Traditional high-speed connectivity to storage environments have now been enhanced through virtualization to create pools of virtual servers for cloud storages. Right, this is also now something that we can do within our organization. In fact, I like the fact that they call it virtualization because this is not really specific to cloud. To enterprise cloud, it's not specific. It's not something spelled out for cloud, because even in our traditional data center, these are things that they've configured already for us within our traditional data center. So this primarily is not cloud ideally. And it's also very, very important that I state that, because we say virtualization is not cloud. They are two different things. Right? So I think this is just, at least touching on certain things within, virtualization. Right? What are some of the security challenges that we have? Bandwidth growth, trust requirements, security investment. Right? These are some of the security challenges, right? Higher network capacity enables better cloud services, but what increases your attack surfaces? That's why we have different network security solutions, from your firewall, from your WAF to your IPS, IDS, right? To your what? Network segmentation. These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Trust requirement. Customers expect, robust security while maintaining data availability, right? If you're talking about security, we're talking about the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Privacy, CIAP, as my boss will say, CAIP, right? So these are just some of the things. See, if you guys should check something called the egregious 11. This is one of the 11 threats to cloud security. I don't know if they've updated it, but you can check it out. The egregious 11. The egregious 11. The egregious 11. Right? It gives you insights into the top 11 threats to cloud environment. So these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Another thing that we take into consideration is what security investment providers must implement comprehensive security tools and protocols. Right? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. So Microsoft or AWS or GCP creating the cloud environment for us has also ensured that what their underlying infrastructure is also protected. Right? Their underlying infrastructure, the physical layer, everything is also being protected. These are the things that we currently factor and we currently do, or they currently do. Are we together? Are we still together? I know it's almost 2 o'clock. Are we still together?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are still together.
Good. P stands for
Yeah.
privacy. P stands for privacy. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, and privacy. Right? So good. Migration strategy. Everybody go to, so let me show you now. Right? For migration on the cloud, the only thing you should be looking at is what? Cloud adoption framework. This is it. This is the only thing you should be looking at. This is the only thing you should be looking at on the cloud. This is it. If you are trying to move to the cloud, this is it. This is also what I told you about, well-architected framework. If you've migrated to the cloud, the next thing you want to do is start building and designing perfectly for the cloud. Are we together? So this is it. This is all the strategies that you need to factor into consideration. From strategy down to what? Manage. In fact, this was 7 before, but they've changed this. They just added cloud native. They just added modernize. But these are the different words. Guidance. These are the various guidance in adopting the cloud environment. Are we together? These are the things that you follow. So if you're trying to come up with a strategy, this is what you need to be looking at. Develop a cloud adoption strategy. Are we together? This is what you should be looking at. This is what you should familiarize yourself with. Why build a cloud adoption strategy? These are the things that you want to. These are these checklists that you factor into consideration before you move on to the next step. Are we together? These are the things that you need to factor into consideration. That's the only thing you need to look at. And AWS has its own. This is Microsoft Azure, but they are both similar. They are both the same, but just naming conventions here and there. Are we together? These are the things that you need to factor into consideration. This is good, but this is better. That is good, but all of these things is what you actually need, right? To come up with an adoption framework. This is where we talk about strategy. After strategy, you plan for the cloud. After you plan for the cloud, you ensure that what your environment is ready. After you ensure your environment is ready, you adopt the cloud. You migrate your workloads. Then you govern, and then you secure. And then you continually manage. These are the things that you factor into consideration. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Together, yes.
Good, good, good. Right? So these are some of the things that we ensure that we take into consideration. When we talk about testing and implementation, test environment, execute migration, specialist support, this is still pretty limited. This is still pretty limited. It goes beyond this. When we talk about testing, this is where we talk about. So the first thing is, let's even do a run through. The first thing we want to do is what? Develop a cloud strategy. That's the first thing you want to do. Why are we leveraging the cloud? What's our objective as an organization? What are we trying to do? That's developing a strategy. What does this look like in the next 3 or 5 years? Where are we going with this? These are the questions that we ask. These are the things that we factor into consideration. After we've done all of this, it means what? We define our motivations, our objectives. You define your strategy team. You prepare the organization. You inform your strategy. Then you what? You plan for the cloud. What are some of the operating models that you intend to use? What are the skills that are needed? These are some of the things that we factor into consideration. You plan your migration, you estimate cloud costs, you document what? Adoption plan. After you plan for it, you ensure that your environment is ready. You have something called landing zones. This is where you've already prepared. You know, when you say you don't prep something, you prepared your environment for all your resources. These are the things that we factor into consideration. After we've done with that ready phase, the next thing is what? We adopt. That's why we migrate our resources to the cloud. And after we migrate it, we govern it, we secure it, and we continually manage them. These are the things that we factor into consideration. All of these things are inclusive. When you are planning, when you are getting your environment ready, and when you are adopting, which means that you are deploying to the cloud environment. These are the things that we factor into consideration. These are the things that we factor into consideration. Right? Security standards and compliance, all of these things you can see. Even if you work, I already told you that no matter what you do, physical or cloud or security is still what? Paramount. Anything you are doing related to the cloud should factor into what? Confidentiality, integrity, availability, and what? Privacy protection. The good thing about it is this, I told you that Microsoft is what? Compliant to majority of, let me see, Microsoft compliance page. You will see that they are compliant to all the various standards. Let me see. Good, and this is it. They are compliant to 27001, 2301, PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, NDPA, about 40-something standards. See, if you want to get their latest reports, you can see them. These are all their certifications and their regulations. If I click on the ISO certifications, you will see it's loading. If I click on the ISO certification, you can see these are everything. You can see ISO 27701, 22301, 27018, 27017, 27001, 27036. You can see all their certificates. You can see everything year after year, year after year. Are we together? And this is just for ISO. If I go to SOC, let's check their SOC 2, SOC 3 reports. You see
right? So you can see this is their SOC 3 report. You can see their SOC 2 report. These are certain things that you can see SOC 2 type 2, SOC 2 type, SOC 1 type 2. There are different reports readily and available for you. So when it comes to compliance with security controls, trust me, Microsoft or different cloud service CSP, cloud service providers, they have everything sorted. The same compliance space that we have for Microsoft here, we also have the same for what? AWS. So when it comes to network security, data encryption, identity management, everything is good and everything is solid. Right? Your resources have been effectively protected. Right? And we also have, different IAM standards and frameworks that they conform to. I already showed you. If you were to go, I'm sure you still see around NIST. If I were to come here, you'll see something around the NIST. You can see the PCI, you can see the GDPR. But if I were to search for NIST, I'm sure I will see something around NIST. Right? But these are some of the things that, we factor into consideration. So majority, any cloud service provider that you are working with must comply to all of these things. They must comply to various security standards. Any. Right? They must have reference architectures. There are different reference architectures, security reference architectures, operational reference architectures. Next week we'll look at some of these things. Right? And these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. And because I'm saying the cloud service provider must do A, must do B when it comes to security, doesn't mean you as the consumer will not do your part when it comes to security. Because they have their role to play, and you also have your role to play. Some people believe that Shebi is the cloud. This is the cloud. We are good now. We are protected. That's a lie. That's not how it operates. And you need to know, you need to factor some of these things into consideration. There are different security resources on your cloud that you need to ensure that you've enabled. From your NSGs to your firewalls to your WAF to your encryptions, plenty security, configurations that you must do. And these are some of the things that we factor into consideration. Right? So it is 2 p.m. on dot. I think we can call it a day today. So we don't stress ourselves. So let's call it a day today. I know it's not easy, right? Spending 10, 11, 12, about 4 hours of your Saturday here, right? I hope it's been worth your while. I hope, this is something that we factor into consideration. I hope I've at least given you some form of clarity with respect to this. Next week, by God's grace, I don't know if I'll be the one joining, but we should complete or conclude this particular segments for the cloud environment. So, any question before we call it a day? Any question before we call it a day? Some of us are hungry.
Hello.
Any question? Go ahead, please.
So, sir, we need a soft copy of the slide, if possible.
Yes, the coordinator. I think the coordinator said they shared it on the WhatsApp. I don't. The coordinator sent it to me, so they have it.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you.
Yes, please. Any other question? Any other question? All right. In light of no question, I think we can call it a day. Thank you very, very much for your time. Let me hand over to, I don't know if there are any communications from the facilitators or the coordinators of this session. Any communications?
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.
Let's appreciate Mr. Oluwafemi in the chat box. Thank you so much. The session has been really exciting. Let's thank Mr. Oluwafemi in the chat box, everybody. Thank you so much. While we are doing that, please go to the chat box. we have a feedback form. Please endeavor to fill it. Let's know what we can do, how we can make the program better for you. Please fill in the feedback form in the chat box and chat done. Please fill in the feedback form, chat done when you're done with that. And also, the soft copy of the material will be posted on the group along with the link to the recording. So all of that will be posted on the WhatsApp group so we can all go through all of this again during the week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And please do not forget registration is still ongoing for all of our programs. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your colleagues, let everybody register for this program. All right. I have a lot of people. Done. Okay. Thank you. Fill in the feedback form, fill in the attendance. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We'll be continuing the program same time next week. Thank you so much, everybody.